So let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus got his first real paycheck as a registered nurse back in March of 2015. $68,000 a year. I mean, after taxes and everything, that came out to about $4,100 a month. He was 26, finally done with student loans. Well, mostly done. You know how that goes. And he felt like he'd actually made it, like he'd arrived. His father sat him down that same week. Coffee table, 2 cups, the whole setup, and he gave him the talk. You know the one I'm talking about. The money talk. Listen, his dad said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but you get the vibe. Don't be stupid with this money. Don't go buying some car you can't afford just because all your friends are doing it. Put $500 from every single paycheck into a savings account. High yield if you can find one. Just let it grow. Don't touch it unless it's a real emergency, not a I want a new TV emergency, a real emergency. And Marcus, he did exactly that. Found a savings account offering 0.75% annual interest, which honestly was actually pretty good for 2015, believe it or not. And he set up automatic transfers, $500 every 2 weeks like clockwork. Didn't think about it, didn't check it every day, just let it accumulate, let it sit there and grow. For 8 years, Marcus was that guy, the responsible one. While his friends were out there financing brand new trucks they didn't need, taking trips to Cancun, upgrading to nicer apartments with pools and whatever, Marcus was saving, building his nest egg, doing exactly what his father told him to do, being smart, being careful. By January 2023, Marcus had saved $52,000. $52,000 sitting in that savings account, safe and sound, protected. The balance had grown by about $1,800 from interest over those 8 years. I mean, not much, but hey, it was something, right? Better than nothing. Then Marcus decided he was ready. Ready to buy a house. Nothing crazy, just a small starter home, maybe a townhouse or something. Something to stop throwing $1,600 a month away on rent that was just disappearing into his landlord's pocket. He started looking at listings, talked to a mortgage broker, got pre-approved. He was excited, really excited, finally taking that next step. And that's when he saw the listings. That's when reality hit. Back in 2015, when Marcus first started saving, right when he got that job, the median home price in his area, he lives in Phoenix, Arizona for context, was about $185,000. And $52,000, that would have been a solid 28% down payment. I mean, that's more than enough to avoid PMI, get yourself a good interest rate, keep that monthly payment comfortable and manageable. In 2023, that same median home price, $430,000. His $52,000, 8 years of saving, of being responsible, of doing everything right, was now barely 12% down. Not enough to avoid PMI, not enough to really negotiate, not enough to compete with cash buyers who were swooping in. The money he'd carefully, methodically saved for 8 years had, if you just looked at the account, grown by $1,800. Pat yourself on the back, right? Except in reality, in actual real-world can-you-buy-a-house reality, it had lost over 40% of its purchasing power. 40% in the only market that actually mattered to him. Marcus called his dad. Had to, needed to understand what happened. And his dad, to his credit, didn't have an answer because his dad had saved money the exact same way back in the 1980s. And back then, this is the part that kills me, savings accounts paid 8%, 10%, sometimes 12% interest. Inflation existed, sure, it was always there, but your money was actually growing faster than prices were rising. You were winning. That doesn't work anymore, like at all. The rules changed, and nobody sent Marcus a memo about it. My name is Khan, and look, I have spent honestly probably an unhealthy amount of time, like way too many late nights, studying exactly how inflation destroys wealth that's just sitting there hiding in savings accounts. My wife thinks I'm crazy. Maybe I am. But someone needs to talk about this stuff. If you have money sitting in savings right now because someone, your parents, your grandparents, some financial advisor told you that's the safe thing to do, the responsible thing to do, if you look at your account balance and you feel good, you feel secure because, hey, at least the number isn't going down, right? If you genuinely think keeping cash in the bank is the responsible, low-risk, smart move, hit that subscribe button right now. I mean it. Do it. Because what I'm about to show you, and I'm not exaggerating here, is why that safe money is actually melting away like ice cream on a hot sidewalk. How your bank is quietly, systematically profiting from your fear of losing money. And the invisible math that's running 24/7 every single day, that's been stealing from you every moment you leave money just sitting there doing nothing. Give this video a thumbs up if you've ever wondered, like genuinely laid awake at night wondering, why saving money the right way somehow never seems to actually get you ahead. Why you're doing everything you're supposed to do and still feeling broke. Because by the end of this, I promise you, you're going to understand exactly why. And you're probably going to get a little angry. That's okay. That's normal. Okay, so here's what you need to understand. And I mean really fundamentally get in your bones about money. Setting up key concept. A dollar is not a thing. Like it's not a stable unit of value that just sits there being worth $1 forever. It's not a rock. It's not gold sitting in a vault. It's a claim on purchasing power. That's all it is. And purchasing power doesn't just stand still waiting for you. It erodes constantly, every single day, like rust on metal. Through this process we call inflation. And see, most people, I'd say probably 90% of people, think about savings in what's called nominal terms. The number on the screen, the digits. Marcus saw $52,000 and that felt real, right? Solid, protected, safe, like that number meant something permanent. But that's not what actually matters. Correction, simple. That number, it's almost meaningless, bold claim. What matters, the only thing that matters, emphasis on exclusivity, is real value. What your money can actually do in the world right now, today. What it can buy, what it can purchase, what doors it can open, what problems it can solve. And real value, it's determined by this relationship, this constantly shifting relationship between your dollars and the prices of everything around you. The fundamental truth. Everything. Food, gas, houses, healthcare, college, all of it. So, between 2015 and 2023, cumulative inflation in the United States was approximately 27%. That's according to Bureau of Labor Statistics, official government numbers, not me making stuff up. Let me translate what that actually means in real English, not economist speak. Something that cost you $100 in 2015 cost you $127 in 2023. Same exact thing, nothing changed about the product, just more expensive. Or, and this is the way I think about it that makes it more clear, flip it around. $1 in 2023 bought what 79 cents bought in 2015. Your dollar shrank, lost weight, got weaker. So, Marcus's $52,000, it was not worth $52,000 anymore, not in any way that mattered. In 2015 purchasing power, in what can this actually buy me power, it was worth about $41,000. He'd lost $11,000. $11,000 gone, vanished. Not through any mistake he made, not through any risky investment that went south, not through gambling or stupid purchases or living beyond his means, through the simple act of being responsible, of doing what he was told to do, of being smart and careful. His savings account didn't protect him. It gave him a comforting number to look at on his phone, while inflation systematically, quietly, invisibly destroyed his wealth month by month. That's the trap.
And here's what makes this especially brutal. Here's the part that really gets me. Savings account interest rates, they're not just low. They're not just disappointing. They're insulting, like genuinely mathematically insulting if you actually sit down and think about it. The average savings account in America right now, today, as I'm recording this, pays about 0.4% annually. That's the average. Some high-yield accounts, if you shop around, if you hunt for them, might give you 4% if you're really lucky. And banks advertise that 4% like they're doing you this massive favor. Inflation over the past 3 years, want to know what inflation's been doing? Between 4% and 9% annually, depending on which year we're talking about. Some years worse than others, but consistently brutal. That gap, that space between what your money earns and what inflation takes away, that's your real return. That's what actually matters. And for most savings accounts, the vast majority of them, that real return is deeply, consistently, painfully negative.
Let me say that differently because this is important. You're not earning 0.4%. You think you are. Your bank statement says you are, but you're actually losing 3% to 8% per year in real purchasing power, while sitting there feeling like you're doing the responsible, adult, smart thing. You're losing money, actively losing it, but it feels like saving. That's the trap. That's the invisible theft. And it compounds. It gets worse over time. Let me show you what this actually looks like over time, because honestly, the compounding nature of this loss is what makes it genuinely devastating. Like, when I first ran these numbers myself, I had to double check them because I thought I screwed up the calculation. But nope, this is real. Take $50,000 sitting in a savings account, nice round number, earning 0.5% interest while inflation is averaging 4% annually. Pretty typical scenario, nothing crazy. After 1 year, your nominal balance, what your bank statement shows you, is $50,250. Cool, you made $250, right? Your real purchasing power? About $48,000, what it's actually worth. You've lost $2,000 in real value. That hurts, it sucks, but it's survivable, you can absorb that. After 5 years, okay, now your nominal balance is $51,266. See, it went up. You're saving money. Your real purchasing power? About $41,000. You've lost $9,000. That's almost 20%, almost a fifth of your money just gone, evaporated. After 10 years, your nominal balance? $52,556. Look at that. After a decade, you've got $2,500 more than you started with. Pat yourself on the back, I guess. Your real purchasing power? About $33,500. You've lost $16,500, one-third, a third of everything you saved, just evaporated into thin air. And after 20 years, I almost don't want to tell you this one, but you need to see it. Your nominal balance? Around $55,000. Hey, you turned $50,000 into $55,000 over 20 years. Congratulations. Your real purchasing power? Approximately $22,500. You've lost more than half. Gone. Over half your money disappeared. You've lost it not through a stock market crash, not through a Bernie Madoff situation, not through some risky investment that went sideways, through literally the safest, most cautious, most responsible decision you could possibly make, through doing what your parents told you to do. And here's the part that really bothers me, like this keeps me up at night sometimes. Your bank knows all of this. They're not stupid. They're not clueless. They have entire departments full of economists and analysts with PhDs who understand inflation better than you or I ever will. They know exactly what's happening to your money. When you deposit $50,000 into a savings account earning 0.5%, your bank doesn't just let it sit there in a vault with your name on it. That's not how this works. That's never been how this works. They lend it out immediately. To other customers taking out mortgages at 7%, to credit card holders paying 22%, to businesses borrowing at 9%, 10%, to auto loans at 8%. So they're making 7%, 10%, 22% on your money, paying you 0.5%, half a percent. Let me put that in actual dollar terms because percentages can feel abstract. On your $50,000, they pay you $250 a year in interest. They make, conservatively, $3,500 a year lending your money out. That's a $3,250 profit on money you gave them. The beautiful part, I mean this in the darkest way possible, from their perspective, the genius part, is that most people never ever do this math. You see the balance, it's stable, maybe it's going up slightly, and you feel responsible, you feel like an adult, you feel like you're doing the right thing. You don't see the purchasing power bleeding out month after month, year after year. Because inflation is invisible until you actually try to buy something, until you try to buy that house and realize your down payment doesn't mean what it used to, until you try to retire and realize your nest egg can't cover what you thought it would. And by then, it's way, way too late. So, what do you actually do about this? Like, practically speaking, what's the move here? First, let me be clear about something. Some cash in savings is absolutely necessary, period. You need an emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses sitting somewhere liquid and accessible. You need to be able to get to it immediately if your car dies or you lose your job or you have a medical emergency. That's non-negotiable. I'm not telling you to invest your emergency fund in stocks. That would be insane. But beyond that emergency fund, beyond those 3 to 6 months, every single dollar sitting in a savings account is actively losing value. It's melting, and you need to do something about it. Option 1, Treasury inflation-protected securities. Tips. These are government bonds, so they're safe, they're backed by the US government, that are specifically, purposefully designed to keep pace with inflation. The principal adjusts automatically with the consumer price index, so if inflation goes up, your bond value goes up. You're not getting rich off tips, let's be real, but you're also not getting quietly robbed while you sleep, which is honestly a huge improvement over what most savings accounts do. Option 2, diversified index funds. Now look, yes, I know, the stock market goes up and down. It's volatile. It's scary sometimes, especially if you've never invested before. Validating the emotion. There is risk. I'm not going to lie to you and say there isn't. But here's the thing. Over any 10-year period in history, and I mean any 10 years you want to pick, the S&P 500 has averaged about 10% annual returns. Some years up, some years down, but averaged out over time, 10%. That's not just beating inflation, that's actually genuinely building wealth. And honestly, if your money's in savings losing 4% a year to inflation, that's a guaranteed loss. At least with index funds, you're giving yourself a chance to win. Option 3, real assets. Real estate, when you buy it intelligently, not over-leveraging yourself, not buying at the peak of a bubble, actually doing the math, tends to appreciate with inflation because it's a physical asset. It's actual land, actual bricks, actual value that exists in the world. Remember that house Marcus couldn't afford? Someone who bought it in 2015 saw their equity grow by $245,000 over 8 years. Marcus's savings grew by $1,800. The stark difference. Now, I'm not saying run out and buy a house tomorrow if you're not ready, but I am saying real assets hold value in ways that cash in a bank account just doesn't. Look, the point isn't that savings accounts are evil. The point isn't that banks are cartoon villains twirling mustaches. The point is that treating savings accounts as a long-term wealth preservation strategy is financial suicide in an inflationary environment. It just doesn't work. It worked for your grandparents when interest rates were 10%. It doesn't work now when they're 0.5%. The game changed. You have to change with it.
Marcus eventually bought a house. He did it. In 2024, about a year after he started looking. Smaller than he wanted, further from work than he hoped for, like 25 minutes further, with a 7.2% interest rate that he would have killed for in 2015, but that honestly made his stomach turn in 2024. And a monthly payment that, if we're being honest, stretches his budget more than he's comfortable with. But he's a homeowner now. He did it. He still thinks about it, though. Talks about it sometimes when we chat, when we grab coffee. What would have happened? What his life would look like right now if someone, anyone, had just pulled him aside in 2015 and said, hey, put half in savings for emergencies, but put the other half into an S&P 500 index fund. Just that one piece of advice. $26,000 invested in 2015, growing at an average 10% annually, would be worth approximately $60,000 by 2023. Combined with the other $26,000 he kept safe in savings for emergencies, for that security his dad wanted him to have, he'd have had $86,000 total. Enough for that 20% down payment. Enough for the house he actually wanted, in the neighborhood where his friends live, where he wanted to be. Enough to avoid PMI completely, get a way better interest rate, have lower monthly payments that wouldn't keep him up at night. The whole thing. Everything he wanted. His dad gave him good advice. Really, truly good advice. For the world he grew up in. For 1983. For a world that just doesn't exist anymore. The rules changed. The entire game changed. And nobody told Marcus this happened. Nobody pulled him aside and said, hey, that thing your dad told you, that worked when he was your age. It doesn't work anymore. The math is completely different now. Nobody sends memos about these things. You're just supposed to somehow figure it out on your own, I guess. And by the time you do, by the time you actually sit down and run the numbers, you've already lost thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars. Your money is being calculated right now, right this second as you're watching this. Inflation is running its course, doing its thing. Interest rates are where they are, and that gap between them, that deadly gap, exists whether you're thinking about it or not, whether you know about it or not. You can't stop inflation. You're not the Federal Reserve. You can't control interest rates. You can't make banks suddenly start caring about you and paying better rates. But you can, and this is key, this is everything. You can stop pretending that hiding from it, that sticking your head in the sand and hoping for the best, that just doing what your parents did, is the same thing as being safe. It's not safe. It never was. True safety isn't a number on a screen that looks the same month after month. That's fake safety. That's an illusion. True safety is purchasing power that keeps pace with the world around you, with reality. It's money that can do tomorrow what it can do today, that can do next year what it can do this year. Look, I've spent, God, I don't even want to know how many hours at this point, probably way too many, researching this stuff, running these scenarios in Excel at 11 p.m., doing this math over and over and over so you don't have to go through what Marcus went through, so you can just know, so you can make better choices. If this changed how you think about that savings account sitting there right now, if you're looking at it differently, if you're going to actually do something different because you sat through this video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Because look, there's a lot more of this stuff, a lot more financial traps, a lot more things nobody talks about that your parents might not know about, that your bank is definitely not going to explain to you. And I'm going to keep making videos about all of it, every trap I find. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.